Welcome to Whispers of History, where forgotten tales, strange events, and mysterious moments from the past come alive. One whisper at a time. Subscribe, relax, and let the past whisper you to sleep. Close your eyes, if you like, or let them drift slowly across the room around you. Wherever you are, whether tucked under the softness of warm sheets or listening with a quiet mind in search of sleep, let yourself sink into stillness. Tonight, we will walk through the shadowed corners and sunny courtyards of ancient Rome, not in the footsteps of emperors or warriors, but in the lingering dust of ordinary lives and whispered stories. You'll visit a place where hot steam billowed in tiled chambers, where bodies glistened with oil and sweat, and gossip passed like currency. You'll follow a man whose voice could silence the Senate, and whose words finally sealed his end. You'll listen as the silence of a city, buried under ash, speaks again. And finally, you'll recline like the elite once did, wrapped in linen and privilege, with figs on a bronze platter and soft music in the air. But don't worry, there's no need to stay awake through it all. Let your mind float. Let your breath slow. The past will wait for you, even in dreams, and so we begin. With the heat, the clamor, and the strange, sweaty rituals of a Roman bathhouse. Imagine this: you are walking the worn stone streets of ancient Rome. The late afternoon sun glows warmly on the limestone buildings, casting long shadows between the columns and shutters. You turn a corner and see it, massive, arched, and humming with life. The Thermae, or Roman public bathhouse. Its exterior is grand and impressive, columns of white travertine, mosaics of Neptune and sea creatures, and carved reliefs of bathers in repose. Inside, it is far less tranquil. You step through the doors and are immediately swallowed by sound, the slap of sandals on wet marble, the hiss of steam escaping domed ceilings, and the low murmur of dozens of voices, some debating politics, others sharing crude jokes or whispered rumors. It is hot. Stifling, almost. Your breath feels thick. The air is heavy with the mingling scent of olive oil, smoke, and bodies, and this is just the beginning. The Roman bath was more than a place to wash. It was a social ritual, an expected part of daily life. Whether rich senator or modest tradesman, you would begin with the apoditerium, the changing room. There are no private lockers here. Slaves or attendants watch over rows of personal belongings. Theft was common, so many brought guards, or lost what they could not carry. You strip down fully. Nudity is normal here, and few seem to notice. You, however, feel exposed. Next, the tepidarium, a warm chamber, tiled and echoing, where your body adjusts to the heat. The walls are curved, designed to trap warmth, and soft lamplight flickers from bronze sconces. Then comes the caldarium. This is where most visitors begin to struggle. It is hot. Oppressively so. A sunken pool bubbles gently in the center, while slabs of marble offer places to sit and sweat. The air seems to press on your skin like a heavy cloth. You sweat almost immediately. Here, an attendant hands you a strigil, a curved metal scraper. There is no soap. Oil is poured over your skin, then scraped away with the strigil, taking dirt, sweat, and dead skin with it. The sensation is strange. Not painful, but certainly not relaxing. Scraping is thorough. Too thorough, by modern standards, and all around you, bodies, some pale, others sun-browned and muscled, crowd the space. There is little distance. No silence. Gossip spreads faster than steam. The bathhouse was where power was seen. A well-placed remark could elevate your status, or ruin someone else's. Business deals were brokered in whispers. Enemies could be watched from the corners of the frigidarium. Friendships formed and broke. Imagine a senator lounging by the water, flanked by freedmen, while a local baker nervously courts favor for grain subsidies. A poet recites a few verses to anyone who'll listen. Two soldiers argue over dice, the heat is constant. The sweat relentless. There is no air conditioning, no escape until you pass through every room. After the caldarium comes the frigidarium, the cold room. Icy water, meant to shock and close the pores. Most plunge in quickly, gasping, before rising and shaking like dogs. Your heart races. Your body, overwhelmed by the shift in temperature, aches for cool air and stillness. But even after this, you are not done. Infections were common. Cuts from strigils could introduce disease. The water, shared by dozens, was seldom fully clean. Parasites, skin ailments, and fungal infections spread quietly. The heat was fertile ground for bacteria, and yet, the Romans believed this was health. The baths were seen as purifying, cleansing the outer body. And, somehow, the soul. There were even bathhouse curses, tiny lead tablets inscribed with pleas for vengeance on thieves or unfaithful lovers, tucked into drains where gods might find them. Only after this ordeal, changing heat, scraping, noise, politics, and cold, would you recline in the final room. There, quiet conversation resumed. Oil was reapplied, perfumes used. Some read poetry. Others dozed in corners, but the bathhouse took its toll. For the unprepared, it was exhausting. Overheating. Humbling. And not altogether clean, so perhaps you wouldn't last a day, but the Romans did. Every day. They walked those wet stones, carried their strigils, and stepped into heat that seared the lungs. All for the rhythm of routine. Let us leave the heat of the baths behind, and drift gently into the world of polished words, worn sandals, and the slow unraveling of a man made of language. Imagine yourself in the Forum of ancient Rome, its marble steps sun-warmed, its columns casting long shadows. Here, voices once rose like thunder, not in anger, but in reasoned debate, and none rang louder, or smoother, than Marcus Tullius Cicero, a man who lived by his voice. And died because of it, but not all at once. No, Cicero's fall came slowly. Like a fire that begins with a single hidden ember. Or a statue cracking along an invisible fault line. Cicero was not born into power. He was a novus homo, a new man, from the countryside near Arpinum. His family was well off, but not noble. Still, from a young age, Cicero's mind shimmered with promise. He studied in Athens, read the works of Plato, and practiced the art of persuasion until it became second nature. Imagine him, a young man wrapped in a pale toga, pacing beneath olive trees and repeating arguments aloud, each phrase polished like a coin. When he returned to Rome, he rose quickly. His speeches dazzled senators and swayed crowds. He was elected consul, Rome's highest office, without violence or bribes. A rare thing, but even then, his tongue earned enemies. His greatest moment, and perhaps the first crack, came with the Catalan conspiracy. Lucius Sergius Catilina, a bankrupt noble with dangerous ambition, plotted to overthrow the Republic. Cicero uncovered it, exposed it, and in a thunderous speech in the Senate, he revealed Catilin's treachery to the world. Quo usque tandem abutera, Catilina, patientia nostra. How long, Catiline, will you abuse our patience? The words echoed down the marble hall. Catiline fled. The Senate applauded, but when Cicero had the conspirators executed without trial, some began to whisper. He had saved the Republic, yes, but at what cost? Years passed. Cicero's popularity faded. He was exiled briefly, then recalled. Always returning to Rome, always trying to stay close to the pulse of power, but the Republic he loved was beginning to unravel. The triumvirates rose. Julius Caesar, Pompey, and Crassus carved the city's power among themselves like slices of bread. Cicero, ever the orator, tried to speak against it. But his voice, once like thunder, now met silence, or worse, laughter. He withdrew. Wrote letters, philosophical works, treatises on friendship, on duty, on growing old. Words that still whisper through time. When Caesar fell to daggers on the Ides of March, the streets flooded with fear and silence. Cicero, old now, saw one last chance to save the Republic. He threw his support behind the Senate, and began writing a series of furious speeches against Mark Antony. They were the Philippics, named after Demosthenes' ancient speeches warning of tyranny. Cicero's words were cutting, elegant, brutal. Antony, he said, was a disease, and Antony listened. Cicero tried to flee. He rode in a litter down the coast. His slaves urged him onward. But old bones do not move fast. They found him by the sea, just before dawn. He did not resist. He bared his neck. They killed him. Quietly. Without ceremony, Mark Antony had his hands and head nailed to the speaker's platform in the forum, the very place his voice had once ruled. Some say Fulvia, Antony's wife, stabbed his tongue with a pin. A cruel gesture. But the damage had already been done. His voice was gone, and yet you can still hear it, in libraries, in lectures, in whispered quotes passed down through centuries, because words, unlike men, do not always die. Let us wander, now, to a city forever paused mid-breath, Pompeii, a place where the bathhouses were warm, the mosaics shimmered underfoot, and the lives of thousands carried on, never knowing they were being etched into ash. Imagine the heat of a Roman bath once more, but this time, not from fire under marble floors, but from a mountain, quiet and brooding. Vesuvius. Watching. Waiting, the same stone benches where citizens once gossiped in the caldarium, now lie buried beneath layers of silence, and yet, it's all still there. The walls. The cups. The sandals. The warnings they never heard. You see, Pompeii was no grand imperial capital. It was ordinary. Comfortably so. It had bakeries and taverns, graffiti and gossip, and baths, hot rooms packed with sweating strangers, pools that never drained clean, steam thick with oil and contagion, but none of that mattered when the sky darkened. People clung to their routines, even as the ground betrayed them. Some ran, some prayed, some bathed. They found the body of a man, wrapped in a towel, curled in the tepidarium. Another near the latrine, still clutching a sponge stick. They were simply going about their day, and the day did not forgive them. What Pompeii preserved was not terror or panic, but a life interrupted, a basin half-filled, a shop mid-sale, a bathhouse mid-cleaning. This is why you wouldn't last a day in a Roman bathhouse. Because even the daily rituals, the washing, the oiling, the lounging in heat and chatter, they were part of a world that never warned you when it would end. So, we walk its stone streets now, silently, not to remember their deaths, but to feel how alive they were, just before. Let the stone streets of Pompeii fade now into the gentle light of morning in the Roman countryside. The ground is quiet, soft with dew, the scent of crushed thyme rising from beneath worn leather sandals. Here stands a villa, sprawling and serene, surrounded by olive trees and dusty vineyards, its terracotta roof tiles warmed by the rising sun. Inside, a Roman aristocrat wakes, not with the blare of alarms or flashing screens, but to the faint coo of doves and the distant murmur of slaves beginning their duties. The air is cool and dry. The walls around him are frescoed with mythological scenes in faded red, ochre, and black. A servant draws back thin linen curtains, letting soft golden light spill across the mosaic floor. He stretches beneath a woolen blanket, then sits upright on a low couch, slipping his feet into leather sandals worn smooth from use. Today is not a day of war, or politics, or even celebration. It is an ordinary day. And yet, it demands ritual, structure, and performance. First comes the cleansing. But unlike the modern shower, quick, hot, and antiseptic, his morning wash involves a basin of cold water, poured gently by a young attendant. A strigil scrapes away sleep and sweat. Olive oil, not soap, cleanses the skin. It is soothing, but not sterile. The scent of the oil is faintly fruity, tinged with herbs and iron from the basin. It leaves a residue, subtle but ever-present. He wraps himself in a tunic of undyed wool, ties it at the waist, and walks slowly to the atrium. There, sunlight filters through the compluvium, a square opening in the roof, falling in geometric patterns onto the marble floor. In the center, a shallow pool collects rainwater. It ripples faintly as a breeze passes. A light breakfast is taken on a low couch, bread dipped in honey, dried figs, perhaps a few olives or a bit of cheese. Wine, diluted with water, is sipped from a ceramic cup. The household bustles around him, quietly, efficiently. Slaves pass with trays, whispering to one another in Greek. After the meal, he moves to the tablinum, a sort of study. Here, scrolls are laid out in neat piles. A scribe waits with a stylus and wax tablet. The aristocrat may dictate letters, review estate accounts, or compose philosophical reflections. His thoughts move slowly but deliberately, pausing often to recall a quote from Cicero or a line of Virgil. Later, dressed now in a toga, a heavy, carefully arranged garment requiring the help of a servant, he ventures into town. The toga is cumbersome, stifling in summer, and impractical for movement. But it is a symbol. It declares his status, his dignity, his belonging to Rome's ruling class. He walks along colonnaded streets toward the Forum. Every step draws attention. He greets acquaintances with brief nods. The heat gathers in the folds of his toga. The sun reflects harshly off white marble. Dust clings to the hem. Still, he endures it all for the sake of appearances. At the Forum, conversations bloom, slow, formal, full of rhetorical flourishes and political innuendo. Deals are struck not with handshakes, but with shared glances and veiled phrases. Nearby, beggars cluster under statues, ignored. Eventually, he retreats. Not home, but to the bathhouse. This is the culmination of the Roman day, not just for cleaning, but for socializing, politicking, and observing the health of one's peers. He enters through the apoditerium, the changing room, handing his toga to an attendant. Naked now, he begins the ritual, a warm room to open pores, a hot room to sweat, a cold plunge to shock the system. A slave scrapes his skin with a strigil, removing the oil and dirt. The floor is slick. The air is heavy. Voices echo. It is not private. Not quiet. But it is routine. To abstain would be noticed. After bathing, he may lounge in the palestra, a courtyard for light exercise, or recline on a bench and listen to gossip. It is all part of the same rhythm, a life built not on speed, but on layered ceremony. He returns home before dusk. Dinner is served in the triclinium, the dining room. Guests recline on couches around a low table. The meal begins with eggs, olives, lettuce. Then perhaps fish or roasted game, cooked in sauces thick with fermented fish paste and honey. A poet may be invited to recite. A flute girl may play. There is wine, laughter, politics. But even here, every gesture has meaning. The angle of one's recline, the timing of a toast, the raising of an eyebrow, all are notes in a slow, rehearsed performance. As the evening wanes, lamps are lit. Slaves clear dishes. Guests depart into the dark, their sandals scuffing the gravel path. The aristocrat retires once more to his sleeping quarters. A servant washes his feet. He lies on a low couch, wool blanket drawn up to the chest. The house quiets. Outside, the cicadas begin. This is what it meant to live well in ancient Rome. But would you last? Could you wake without soap, bathe without privacy, wear layers of wool in summer, endure smoke, dust, insects, and politics without relief? Could you play your part in the performance, without rest? Without fail, every day, or would it wear you down? A Roman bathhouse was only part of it. The entire world was designed for endurance, not comfort, and that, too, has been preserved in time, not just the mosaics, not just the ruins, but the burden of the day. Let the warm, scented steam of the Roman bathhouse fade now into something heavier, a haze that does not rise from heated floors or copper kettles, but from the damp breath of the dying. In the great cities of the empire, Alexandria, Antioch, Carthage, and above all, Rome, baths did not close even when death lingered in the streets. The bathhouse was a sanctuary of routine. But in certain years, that very routine became the thing that killed. The plague of Galen, or as it would later be called, the Antonine plague, arrived not with drama, but quietly. A soldier coughed. A merchant developed a fever. Children grew tired. No one thought much of it, at first. People bathed. They greased their skin with oil. They gathered in caldariums thick with steam and breath and bodies pressed shoulder to shoulder. Disease, however, loves warmth. Loves moisture. Loves the skin of the living, and Roman bathhouses, for all their civility and comfort, became the perfect incubators. No masks. No isolation. No sanitation as we know it. Just the scrape of a strigil across an already aching back. Imagine the scene, a young man sits slumped in the tepidarium. His brow is damp, but that is normal here. He has chills. But in the hot room, everyone sweats. He thinks nothing of it. He leaves. He goes home. By morning, he cannot rise. This was not a plague of rats or fleas. Not yet. That would come later. This was a disease of closeness. A sickness that lived in voices, in coughs, in touch. And no place in Rome brought people into closer contact than the baths. Doctors, when summoned, brought no relief. They carried no antiseptic, wore no gloves. They prescribed crushed herbs, wine, and ritual. Many fell ill themselves, and still the baths remained open. For in Roman thinking, the body had to be kept in rhythm. Sweat. Oil. Scrape. Rinse. Repeat. To stop bathing was to stop living. It is said the Antonine plague claimed over 5 million lives, a number so large it may have bent the spine of the empire. Soldiers died. Fields went untended. Orphans crowded temples. Even the emperor, Marcus Aurelius, buried his children, then fell ill himself, and yet, bathhouses never truly closed. Why? Because comfort was ritual. Because the familiar was all people had when the world turned cruel. In the decades that followed, smaller plagues would return. And still, people bathed. They oiled their skin with hands not yet washed. They leaned on benches that held the breath of 100 strangers. They whispered secrets through coughs. Some prayed that the steam would cleanse them, that the gods would boil away the sickness. Some simply needed to feel warm again. To feel like themselves. Imagine now, trying to survive in this world. You, with your expectations of sterilized tiles, filtered air, disposable soap. You, who winces at the idea of sharing a towel, would you have entered that bathhouse, or would the cold outside have seemed safer than the warmth within? The bathhouse, once a place of laughter and politics, had become a quiet engine of death, and still, the rhythm went on. You would not have lasted long, not in the city, not in the year of fever, not in the line to the caldarium, bare-skinned. Hopeful, unaware, because sometimes, clean was dangerous, because comfort is not always safety, because in ancient Rome, even the act of washing could betray you. Let us now follow the water. That same water that once cooled the sweating brows in a caldarium. That flowed in shimmering arcs from fountains. That rinsed the oil and dust from aristocratic limbs. Follow it backward, upstream, before it danced into basins and bathhouses. Before it passed beneath the arches of aqueducts. Follow it, and you will find not purity, but poison. The Romans were proud of their aqueducts. Grand, gravity-fed marvels of arches and stone. They carried water across valleys, into cities, into homes. Engineers took pride in their flow, their elegance, their silence. But what few noticed then, what only centuries later we would come to suspect, was the material used to guide that water. Lead. Or in Latin, plumbum, the pipes of Rome, from the sprawling baths to the humble insulae, were lined or cast with lead. It was malleable, durable, and did not rot. Lead was, in their eyes, a marvel. A gift from the earth, but lead is not a gift. Not to the body. Once it enters, it lingers. It hides in bones. It dulls thought. It deadens reflexes. It frays the nerves. Over time, it steals vigor, clarity, fertility. It does not shout as it kills. It whispers. Imagine now, a Roman child sipping from a cup filled at a public fountain. A patrician woman washing her face from a silver basin. A slave boy drawing warm water for the master's bath. Every drop passing through lead. And in the great Thermae, the sprawling imperial bathhouses where hundreds came daily, the water arrived by lead-lined pipe, warmed in lead vessels, and splashed across marble floors. The warmth opened pores. The water brought relief. And the poison slipped quietly in. Of course, they did not know. Not truly. A few whispered concerns. Galen himself once noted that lead could be dangerous in large doses, but the baths remained open. The pipes continued to flow. The lead gleamed, even as it leached. Imagine now, the slow accumulation. Not enough to sicken suddenly, but enough to fray a generation. Enough to cloud judgment, to shorten tempers, to weaken bones. Some scholars have even dared to ask, did Rome fall, at least in part, through poisoning from within? We cannot know for sure, but what we do know is that lead was everywhere. In cosmetics. In cookware. In wine, where it sweetened and preserved. In the water of every bathhouse, hot, clean, and laced with danger, and unlike disease, lead did not come in waves. It came steadily. Silently. Every day, to live in Rome, to bathe in its comfort, was to invite lead into your body. You would not have noticed it, but after weeks, months, years, it would have noticed you. Your thoughts might have grown sluggish. Your hands trembled slightly. You forgot names. Then places. Then things. And still you bathed. Still you drank. Still you felt lucky to be clean, because the cost of comfort was invisible, and that's what makes it so dangerous. Today, we chase the idea of the Roman bathhouse. We recreate them. Spa-like. Minimalist. Pristine. But we forget that the very water, the very stone, the very materials that made those places run, were slowly breaking their patrons down, lead poisoned slowly. And Roman life gave it every opportunity. Imagine your feet on a warm marble floor. Steam rises. A slave pours warm water over your shoulders. You exhale. And with every breath, the damage deepens. You wouldn't last a day. Not truly, because in ancient Rome, to be clean was not the same as being safe, because even water, even warmth, even rest, came at a price, and in the end, the pipes always win. Let us stay inside the bathhouse a little longer. You may think you've grown used to its heat, its scent of oil and lime, its chorus of voices echoing against domed ceilings. But you've yet to meet the true staff of this place, not just the slaves who carry the towels. Not just the water heaters stoking the furnaces beneath your feet. No, these are the men who touch your skin, scrape your scalp, lance your boils. These are the bathhouse barbers, surgeons, and attendants of Rome. Here, in the tepidarium or the apoditerium, you might sit quietly on a stone bench, bare, slightly flushed, towel draped across your lap, waiting your turn. And from behind the columns, they come, the barber first. He holds not scissors, but bronze shears and curved razors. His tray carries a sponge, a sharp scraper, a shallow dish of oil, and a blunt hook for earwax. He does not ask your name. You're another back to scrape, another face to trim. He doesn't sterilize between customers. No fresh water. No alcohol. His hands carry the oil and sweat of those who came before you. He starts by oiling your hair, then combs it back, ripping out tangles, flicking lice onto the floor. A flick of the razor against your jaw. A nick, a sting. You bleed slightly. He dabs it with a communal sponge and continues. Behind you, another man coughs. The sponge is used again, and this is comfort. This is routine. Imagine now, a small cyst or boil forming beneath your skin. Perhaps from an ingrown hair, or a blister from the heated floor. You're taken to another corner of the baths, where a surgeon waits. Not a physician, but a sharp-eyed man with a bronze scalpel and a basin of water darkened from reuse. You sit on a stool. He cuts quickly. No anesthetic. No gloves. No antiseptic. Just oil and pressure and the faith that infection won't follow. You may leave with a bandage, linen torn from an old tunic, or without. You may return the next day, weaker, because in ancient Rome, medicine was intimate. But not always kind, and then, of course, there is the sponge stick, the tersorium, shared among many, rinsed in salt water or vinegar, stored in a shallow stone gutter beside the public latrine. It was the Roman answer to toilet paper. A communal stick topped with a sea sponge. To use it was a daily ritual for citizens and slaves alike. And it was often kept in the same bathhouse where you scraped your skin clean and whispered secrets in the steam. Imagine it now, dozens of men using it throughout the day. Few cleaned it well. Fewer still replaced it. When stored improperly, the sponge grew moldy. The handle cracked. The vinegar stung, but rarely sterilized. Historians now believe the trasorium helped spread disease, not because of its intent, but because of its nature. Reuse. Contact. Warmth. Moisture. The bathhouse, for all its luxuries, was filled with tools of daily care that carried unseen risk. No labels. No guidelines. No awareness of germs. The very rituals that gave the Romans their polished appearance also opened doors to infection, and still, they kept coming, because the razor soothed the mind. The sponge relieved discomfort. The scalpel promised removal of pain. They believed in balance, hot and cold. Dry and wet, sharp and smooth. To cleanse the outside was to restore the inside, but for you, accustomed to sterile packaging and disposable blades, this world would feel more like a gauntlet. You would hesitate at the razor's approach, you would shudder at the sponge, you would decline the scalpel, yet for them, it was ordinary. Comforting, even. A world that made sense. Until it didn't, until the boil returned, swollen and red, until the sponge spread more than it cleaned, until the barber's blade left more than a mark. These were not barbarians. They were refined. Thoughtful. Civilized. But their cleanliness lived in a time before understanding. The Roman bathhouse was a cathedral of order and touch. And in that sacred space, the very hands that comforted might also wound. Would you have lasted? Would you have let the razor trace your neck? Would you have trusted the sponge? In Rome, luxury often wore a dangerous face, and in the warm echoing baths, danger smiled like a barber and waited with a blade. Breathe in. The air in the Roman bathhouse is heavy, not just with steam, but with something older. Invisible. Lingering, you feel it in your nose first, a faint sting like ash or copper. Then on your skin, as if the humidity clings more stubbornly than before. You rub your temples. You try to ignore the faint dizziness rising behind your eyes. But this was the air of Rome. Of marble and sewage. Of incense and sweat. This was what they called life, in the cities of the empire, Rome, Ostia, Capua, Antioch. The very act of breathing was a gamble. And nowhere more so than in a place like this, the bathhouse, steam churned from underground boilers, feeding the caldarium. Wood smoke crept up through vents and mingled with body heat. The scents of oil, mildew, and bronze tools sharpened in the wet air, and all around you, bodies. Talking, panting, coughing. Exhaling stories, illness, laughter. The warm fog was not just condensation. It was breath. Hundreds of breaths. There was no ventilation, no fans. Only narrow oculi in the ceilings, or high-set latticed windows that let in light but not much relief. Now add to this the street beyond. Rome's air was never clean. Fires burned day and night, brick kilns, bakeries, forges. Charcoal smoke laced every alley. Cooking pots hissed in insula courtyards. Ash clung to damp laundry, sewers were covered, but barely. Open drains ran beside cobblestones. Urine jars spilled in the shadows. Even in luxury, marble homes stored waste in pits under the kitchen. The city stank. In summer, heat thickened the scent. In winter, smoke thickened the air. Imagine walking from your home to the bathhouse. You pass a tannery, where hides soak in lime and dung. You pass a stable, its gutters overflowing. You pass a barber's stall, with bloody cloths piled behind the curtain. Then you step into the baths, into what was supposed to be purification. But the baths carried the city within them. The bathers had walked the same streets. They brought the outside in, on their feet, on their backs, in their lungs, and they brought it into the air. There was no concept of air circulation. They believed in humors, not hygiene. They lit incense, burned oils, waved perfumed cloths. But they did not understand the danger of the unseen: tuberculosis, influenza, fungal spores, smoke particulates. Illness could ride the air just as easily as it traveled by touch. The same warm mist that opened your pores could also open your lungs to what lived in others. Even perfumes betrayed them. Fragrant oils of myrrh, frankincense, and cinnamon, rubbed into the skin, hung in the air, interacting with smoke, creating chemical irritants. There were no filters, no masks, just tradition. Imagine the lungs of a slave boy, stoking the furnaces under the baths for hours. The smoke, ash, and soot wrapped around his chest like chains. He coughed, spat black, and returned to work. Imagine the breath of a senator, oiled and glistening, lounging near the hypocaust vent. He breathes in steam, but also every cough from across the room. He thinks it relaxing. He doesn't realize the air carries more than warmth. The rhythm of Rome was not just in its footsteps, but in its breath. And that breath, shared, recirculated, laced with unknowns, made the bathhouse more dangerous than they knew. Would you have lasted? Could you have filled your lungs with that mingled breath and sweat and smoke, and called it healing? We expect clean air. Carbon filters. Aircon. N95s. We are wary of mold, of secondhand smoke, of coughing strangers, but they breathed together. Believed in closeness. Believed that breath was just breath, and so, as you lie on the marble bench, skin flushed and eyes heavy, you inhale a piece of every man in that room. And perhaps, something more. To breathe Rome was to inhale its comforts, and its decay. You wouldn't have lasted long, not in the steam, not in the smoke, not in the sacred fog of a bathhouse built to purify, yet filled with the quiet poison of breath. Scrubbed. Scraped. Soaked. Every day, the Romans returned to the bathhouse. And every day, they performed a routine they believed kept them clean: oil, strigil, steam, water. Repeat. But beneath this rhythm of ritual, something clung. You see it first in the shadows near the benches, dark smudges on marble where bodies sat too often. Stains that resisted the scrubbing of slaves. The faint outline of elbows and backs. You see it in the water, the way it clouds slightly after too many feet have passed through it. You hear it in the scrape of the strigil across skin, again and again and again. The strigil was not a gentle tool. It was bronze, curved, and used to pull sweat, oil, and dead skin from the body. A single man might use it every day for years. Then lend it to a friend. Then leave it behind for someone else. There was no soap. Cleanliness, for the Romans, meant the absence of visible filth, not the absence of microbes. That knowledge would come centuries later, so they scraped. They soaked. And they sweated, together. Imagine the tepidarium on a busy afternoon. 30, maybe 40 men recline on stone benches, their skin gleaming with oil. A slave moves between them with a jar of perfumed olive oil and a handful of strigils. The floor beneath is slick. Bits of shed skin stick to the soles of feet. A discarded cloth lies half submerged in a puddle. You are never truly alone here. Not even in your own skin. The ritual was intimate, but impersonal. Slaves touched the bodies of senators, merchants, beggars. one after another. Oil spread. Sweat wiped. Strigil drawn down spines, each action, repeated thousands of times, created a rhythm. A comfort, but the comfort was a lie, these tools were not cleaned. The cloths were not boiled. The benches were not disinfected. The water was not filtered. Dead skin gathered in corners. Oil turned rancid in reused jars. Towels soured. And yet they believed themselves pure. To be Roman was to be bathed. To shine with oil. To smell of rose, myrrh, and sweat. To be clean was to be visible, groomed, scraped, scented, but below that surface, fungal infections hid beneath toenails. Boils passed between towels. Eye infections bloomed in shared water. Cuts opened during shaving or scraping became homes for rot. The warm, moist air of the bathhouse nurtured more than just relaxation. You would have noticed it if you stayed long enough. The mild sting in your armpits. The rash on your shoulder. The swelling near the cut on your ankle, but you would not have blamed the bathhouse. No, the bathhouse was a place of health. Of civilization. It was one of the things that made Romans Roman. The filth of the street was left behind at the door, so they believed, but the filth was carried in on their skin. It soaked into the benches. It floated in the water. Cleanliness, in ancient Rome, was a performance. A public show of discipline, status, and refinement. The deeper layers of hygiene, the layers we think of now, sanitation, sterilization, microbial health, were unknown to them, so they followed the same steps every day, like a prayer. Rub. Scrape. Rinse. Oil. Sit. Repeat. You wouldn't have lasted in this routine. Your skin, used to gentler methods, would have chafed. Your immune system, unprepared, would have reacted. You would have touched a strigil after someone with a rash. Dried off with a towel used by a dozen others. Sat on a bench that glistened not just with steam, but with the trace of every person who had sat there that day, and the day before. You are clean, your skin is warm from the steam. Your limbs feel heavy but loose. The marble bench beneath you has grown familiar, the bathhouse is quiet now. The crowd has thinned. Footsteps echo distantly. Water drips somewhere unseen, breathe in. One last time, you've followed their rituals. Felt the oil on your skin. Heard the scrape of the strigil, the splash of the caldarium, the hiss of fire under stone. You've breathed the smoke, the incense, the shared fog. And somewhere along the way, you've begun to wonder, was this comfort? Or something else entirely? Roman life was layered with expectations. To be civilized was to be bathed. To be clean. To be oiled. To participate. But now you know the truth beneath that polished skin, the water wasn't filtered. The strigil passed from hand to hand. The breath of the empire hung like a mist over everything, and yet, they believed this was purity. The baths were more than rooms. They were identity. A daily rebirth through stone and steam. A performance of self, to walk through the frigidarium, to sweat in the caldarium, to sit and speak and glisten in the tepidarium. That was Roman. Not to do it was barbaric, but they did not know what they could not see, the infections. The spores. The irritants and infestations. The chemical haze of burning oils. The invisible rot of routine. You've seen how Cicero's world was breath and performance. How Pompey's final moments preserved the illusion of order. How patrician life was built on shared labor and borrowed air. How even water betrayed them. The bathhouse touched every life. From the lowest furnace boy to the emperor himself, and it wore them down, imagine the lungs of a woman who visited every day, soaking in the same steam. Her skin scrubbed red, her breath thick. She laughs with a friend, but coughs at night. Imagine the sores behind the knees of a child who plays on the wet floor. His mother thinks it's from the sandals. It's not. Imagine yourself again. Would you last a week? The modern body expects something different: filtered air, soft towels, personal soap, distance, but Rome expected closeness, shared space, shared tools, shared breath, and so, you wouldn't have lasted in the comfort of Rome. Not without infection. Not without inflammation. Not without consequence, but the Romans lasted. For centuries. Why? Because they believed in the idea of clean, because they endured, and adapted, and carried on, because they didn't know what they carried in their lungs or on their skin, because they chose ritual over reason, and so the bathhouse lived. Each scrape, each rinse, each exhale, not despite the danger. But with it, luxury, in Rome, was not soft, it was heated stone, searing air, sharp bronze. It was comfort by repetition, and that repetition slowly, quietly, killed them. You lie back. The bench is cooling now. You breathe slower, you imagine the bathhouse empty, echoes bouncing from vault to vault, the steam rises, thinner than before. Tomorrow they will come again, they will oil, scrape, sweat, rinse, and believe. Once again, in the illusion of clean. You wouldn't have lasted, but you understand now, don't you? The comfort was the danger, and the danger was shared. Sleep now. Let the steam fade. History lingers like breath in the air, soft, invisible, still warm. Another whisper from the past, now fading into the night. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more sleepy stories from history. And until next time,